The next day, him and Hall left their homes and returned to Cheeseless Station C again. Somehow, they expected to find their cheese. Him and Hall just stood there when they didn't see the cheese, immobilized like two statues. Hall shut his eyes as tight as he could and put his hands over his ears. He just didn't want to block everything out. He didn't want to know the cheese supply had gradually begun smaller. He believed it moved all of a sudden. Why did they do this to me? Him said. What's really going on here? Finally, Hall opened his eyes, looking around and said, By the way, where's Sniff and Scurry? Do you think they know something we don't? Him scoffed. What would they know? Him continued, They're just mice. They just respond to what happens. We're little people. We're smarter than mice. We should be able to figure this out. I know we're smarter, Hall said, but we don't seem to be acting smarter at the moment. Things are changing around here, Him. Maybe we need to change and do things differently. Why should we change? We're little people. We're special. This sort of thing should not happen to us, or if it does, we should at least get some benefits, Him said. Why should we get benefits? Because we're entitled. Entitled to what? We're entitled to our cheese. Why? Hall asked. Because we didn't cause a problem. Somebody else did this, and we should be getting something out of it, Him said. Hall suggested maybe we should simply stop analyzing the situation so much and go and find some new cheese. Oh no, Him argued. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. While him and Hall were still trying to decide what to do, Sniff and Scurry were already well on their way. They went farther into the maze, looking for cheese at every cheese station they could find. They didn't think of anything else but finding new cheese. Eventually, they found cheese at Cheese Station Inn. They squealed with delight. They found what they had been looking for, a great supply of new cheese. They could hardly believe their eyes. It was the biggest store of cheese the mice had ever seen. In the meantime, him and Hall were still back at Cheese Station C, evaluating their situation. They were now suffering from the effects of having no cheese. They were becoming frustrated and angry and were blaming each other for the situation they were in. Now and then, Hall thought about his mice friends and wondered if they found new cheese yet. Sometimes Hall would imagine sniffing Scurry, finding new cheese, and enjoying it. He thought about how good it would be for him to go out on an adventure in the maze and to find fresh new cheese. He could almost taste it. Let's go, he exclaimed all of a sudden. No, Him quickly responded. I like it here. It's comfortable. It's what I know. Besides, it's dangerous out there. No, it isn't, Hall argued. We run through many parts of this maze before, and we can do it again. I'm getting too old for that, and I'm afraid I'm not just interested in getting lost and making a fool of myself. Are you? With that, Hall's fear of failing returned, and his hope of finding new cheese failed. It faded. So every day, the little people continued to do what they'd done before. They went into Cheese Station C, found no cheese, and returned home. They tried to deny what was happening. Their homes were not the nurturing places they once were. The little people had difficulty sleeping and were having nightmares about not finding cheese. Him said, if we just work harder, we'll find nothing has really changed that much. The cheese is probably nearby. Maybe they just hid it behind the wall. The next day, him and Hall returned with tools. Him held the chisel while Hall banged on the hammer until they made a hole in the wall in Cheese Station C. They peered inside but found no cheese. They were disappointed but believed they could solve the problem. So they started earlier, stayed longer, and worked harder. But after a while, all they had was a large hole in the wall. Hall was beginning to realize the difference between activity and productivity. Maybe we should just sit here and see what happens, Him said. Sooner or later, they have to put the cheese back. Hall wanted to believe that, but the cheese never reappeared. So the little people were growing weak. Finally, one day, Hall began to laugh at himself. We keep doing the same things over and over and wonder why things don't get better. If this wasn't so ridiculous, it would even be funnier. Hall did not like the idea of having to run through the maze again because he knew he would get lost and have no idea where to find any cheese. But he had to laugh at his folly when he saw what his fear was doing to him. He asked him, where did we put our running shoes? It took a long time to find them because they had put everything away when they found their new cheese at Cheese Station C. You're not going to go into that maze again, are you? Why don't you just wait here with me until they put the cheese back? Because you just don't get it, Hall said. I didn't want to see it either, but now I realize they're not going to put yesterday's cheese back. It's time to find new cheese. Him argued, but if there's no cheese out there, even if there is, what if you don't find it? I don't know, Hall said. He had asked himself those same questions too many times and felt the fears again that kept him where he was. He asked himself, where am I more likely to find cheese, here or in the maze? He painted a picture in his mind. He saw himself venturing out into the maze with a smile on his face, with this picture surprised him. It made him feel good. He saw himself getting lost now and then in the maze, but felt confident he would eventually find new cheese out there and all good things that came with it. He gathered his courage. He heard him say something and realized they were still at Cheese Station C. Hall said sometimes things change and they are never the same again. This was like one of those times. That's life. Life moves on, and so should we. Hall looked at his emaciated companion and tried to talk some sense into him, but him's fear had turned into anger and he wouldn't listen. Hall laughed and announced, "It's May's time." Him didn't laugh and didn't respond. Hall picked up a small sharp rock and wrote a serious thought on the wall for him to think about. As was his custom, Hall even drew a picture of cheese around it, hoping it would help him to smile, lighten up, and go after the new cheese. But him didn't want to see it. It read, Then Hall stuck his head out and peered anxiously into the maze. He thought about how he got himself into this cheeseless situation. He had believed that there may not be cheese in the maze, or he may not find it. Such fearful beliefs were immobilizing him and killing him. Hall smiled. He knew him was wondering who moved my cheese, but Hall was wondering why didn't I get up and move with the cheese sooner? As he started out into the maze, Hall looked back where he had come from and felt his comfort. Hall had become more anxious and wondered if he really wanted to go out into the maze. He wrote a saying on the wall ahead of him and stared at it for some time.